Hello everyone, have a nice day. Thank you Cameron for this incredible story. Enjoy listening.
The mother is near, the child is calm. Wherever we are and wherever we go, we always have with us a bright blue nylon pouch with a purple border. In the pouch are 2 plastic syringes, each containing 5 milligrams of Valium sedative, a tube of surgical gel lubricant, and thin rubber gloves. As soon as he starts blinking or twitching a lot, we put him on his left side, pull down the elastic band of his underpants, spread his small buttocks, and insert the gel lubricated tip of the syringe into his butt. In just a few seconds the seizure ends, as if the car engine had been turned off. He falls deeply asleep, and we calm down. My son had his first seizure when he was only 5 years old. He and his babysitter went to a pizza place for lunch. My son was laughing, then suddenly started blinking and fell to the floor. He quickly got up and sat back in his chair, but the babysitter called an ambulance just in case and texted me. That text has survived in my pager. It's been years since then, but I sometimes wonder if I should reread it again and go back to those days. The nanny and her son are in the emergency room of the nearest hospital to the house, where I enter, quickly showing my doctor's license to security. Soon my husband joins us with his doctor's badge from another hospital. They tell us that the tests show no abnormalities in our son and advise us to bring him in again if anything happens to the boy in the future. And in the very near future a lot does happen to the boy. The next day we don't take him to school. He's watching cartoons and I'm cleaning around the house. Maybe the babysitter is just thickening the colors, I think. Maybe my son was just messing around, trying to make a joke. I get distracted by my own business, stop watching him, and I hear his voice, "Oh, Mom, look what my hand is doing." We go to the hospital. This time there was no doubt, my son had a real epileptic seizure, such as described in medical reference books. They do a spinal tap and an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. All the results are negative. We are about to leave when the neurologist asks if we have any more questions. Yes, just one, I answer. What do we do if he has another seizure? Well, you and your husband are doctors. The neurologist says surprised and gives us a pamphlet. Phenytoin. Yellow triangular pills that you can chew. You have to take them 3 times a day. These pills my son must have with him at all times. He goes to first grade with them, on field trips, or when he stays overnight at a friend's house. This boy has a cochlear implant to improve his hearing. His mother takes the medicine cabinet from me and says, "Don't worry. I understand, my child has instructions for use, too." Together with this boy's parents, we became members of a club that no one joins of their own free will. A year later, a nurse from the school calls me. "He's had a seizure and has been going on for 10 minutes, she says quickly. In a hurry, I parked the car outside the school and flew into the nurse's office. My son was lying on the leatherette couch that students with stomachaches or sore throats who want to skip school usually use. I know how his illness is treated in adults. But then I just hugged him and held him tight. He was twitching, there was foam on his lips, and he was all wet with urine. When we go to the ER with him, there is blood on his lips in the foam. I ask the young girl doctor, is he going to die? She pretends she didn't hear, and busily adjusts the oxygen mask on her son's face. We get to the hospital, where I say in a commanding tone that my child is being treated by a neurologist at one of the central hospitals and the patient should be transferred there. The doctor, who is examining my son, turns to me and politely says, "Mommy, you'd better wait in the other room. He is being prepared for transportation to another hospital." A young girl doctor from the ER gives me a plastic cup, which contains the cause of the blood that so frightened me, a baby tooth. "Here," she says, "is a keepsake for you. When we get home, my son has to take 40 pills every day. These pills we crush and add to chocolate chip ice cream. And still he shakes periodically, blinks a lot, and then falls over. It goes on like that for weeks. We spend most of our time in the basement, where a carpeted playroom is set up. It's the only place in the house where my son can't fall down the stairs. Every night we wrap him in a blanket with pictures of Star Wars characters on it, but in the morning we find him on the floor by the bed in his wet pajamas. If the Valium doesn't work, we call an ambulance. One day firefighters in helmets and flame-retardant suits come to us along with the ambulance. Our youngest son is terribly excited to see firefighters in the bedroom he shares with his sick brother. Our child is taken to the hospital. Then they discharge him. Then taken back in and discharged again. Taken away. Discharged. They take him away. Discharged. They take him away, take him away, take him away, take him away, take him away. My husband is too tall to fit on the folding chair bed in the room, so he takes care of the baby during the day shift. I stay with him overnight. Along with the other parents, I wander the hallway on sleepless nights. We buy each other coffee. We sympathize with each other. I get so used to this nightlife that the patients and nursing staff at the hospital become closer to my family members, friends, and co-workers. I begin to become friends with the local nurses, Jen, Sarah, Kristen, and another one we all call the other Jen. One day I find my son's medical records left in the room. On the last page it reads, "Mother by my side, child at ease." Finally the situation becomes clearer. The 6th or 7th MRI shows that there is some kind of change in the right temporal lobe, possibly a tumor. That's something concrete, a glimmer of hope in a sea of worry. There probably hasn't been a parent in the world before us who was so relieved to learn that their son has a tumor in his brain. They do the surgery. Then they take him off the medication. I refuse to read the surgery report and marvel at my own lack of professional interest. I don't want to know anything at all, except that my son won't shake again. After his stitches are removed, we get in the car and drive as much as 9 hours to my husband's parents' house. Before that, we couldn't afford that luxury. On the way home, my husband casts a glance at my son in the rearview mirror and reports, "He's blinking again." Second surgery. Then the third. This time we were lucky. We are the luckiest of unhappy parents, I joke. Years go by. We are renovating the kitchen and on one of the shelves we find a medicine cabinet with 2 syringes, where Valium has long dried up. My son is recovering and gaining weight. He's graduating from high school. He is graduating from college. He's leaving his parents' house. I don't know if he remembers much of what he experienced at that time. He rarely remembers his childhood at all. Sometimes he might comment on the barber who cut his hair so that the many scars on his head may or may not be visible. No more than that. I have long since calmed down, but sometimes the horror comes over me again, as if the past comes to life and enters the present. It happens when I walk through our quiet neighborhood to maintain my health, stretch my muscles, and make my no longer young heart beat more often. Suddenly I hear a siren and then an ambulance comes into view. Few crimes and other emergencies happen in our neighborhood. Sometimes someone gets bitten by a dog, or a person has an asthma attack. I know my son no longer lives in this town, but I still shudder to see where the ambulance is going. Sometimes people ask me if life is easier when both parents of a sick child work as doctors. It seems to me that this is the wrong way to put it. It doesn't make it harder or easier. All that matters is fear and love, panic and relief, whether he shakes or not.